Now. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Let's
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, home of the 2024 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Coverage, your place to come. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado. Anthony, it has been 6 days since the Dodgers became World Series champion. Have we come down from the high even in the slightest yet?
No. Not at all. Not at all. I was in the stadium for the end of the parade on Friday. Had a good time there. Went out in the city afterward. And then just kind of spent the weekend. I watched the game again. Nice. Game 5. I watched the parade the next day again. YouTube MLB had a cool stream of it where none of the announcers were on. It was just like the buses were mic'd up that the players were in. And so like you can hear them and all of that. And so it was pretty cool to watch that. But yeah, I mean, like basically every day I've relived some part of this experience.
How was going to the stadium? I have to imagine that's one of the better sports experiences you've ever had.
Absolutely. Probably it's a top 3 sports experience easily as a fan for me. I lost my voice.
Love it.
It was more than I expected. I think one, the energy that the players and Dave Roberts brought was really impressive. And 2, just like it was a party from the second you walked through the gates.
Yeah. And
my brother made a pretty interesting point of like, it's the first time we've been here where there hasn't been any fans from the other team. And it was just like every single person in the stadium on the same page, cheering for the same thing, like, just walking through the concourse and people are giving you fist bumps and, stuff like that. It was such a celebration. The stress was gone of the series. The stress was gone of like a regular game normally being played there, all of that kind of stuff. And so on top of the fact that like, when they said like, oh, it's sold out, I was like, okay, well, they probably like shut down big sections of the stadium, right? And like you get there and it's like, oh no, like literally everything except for the 5th deck behind the plate was occupied.
Crazy.
I mean, it was wall to wall people. Just an amazing experience, something that I've never experienced in any professional sports stadium or arena. It was cool that they ended the parade there the way they did, because it just felt like the full experience had come, full circle.
Totally. Yeah, it was an awesome moment just to watch on TV. Obviously, the parade was awesome, the interviews that we got in real time on that. But just to see Walker Buehler getting after it, to see Clayton Kershaw on some of the MLB Network interviews that he did, getting really emotional. Teoscar Hernandez getting emotional. Jack Flaherty, you could tell what it meant to him to be in Los Angeles. There were just so many little moments throughout that entire day that, I'm jealous that you got to enjoy it. I got to enjoy it from afar, but it was pretty sweet stuff. So I have to ask. Oh, go ahead.
That Teo moment you brought up was incredible. It really was incredible. He's already a fan favorite, so he gets the huge ovation when he steps up to the mic. And before he gets the first word out, he's already choked up, and everyone can hear that and they realize it. And like, I looked over and my brother was teary-eyed. I was getting choked up. And then I looked at the other side and there's like 3 people next to us. And like 2 of them have like tears or like just streaming down the face. It really in the moment illustrated just like what this actually meant to be able to have this parade and have this celebration. And then for somebody like Teo to connect with the fans in that it meant so much to him. And we all felt like he knew what it meant to us in that moment.
Yeah, it was interesting because obviously a big deal was made about 2020 not getting the parade. And I was never like an anti-parade guy, but I think it took this parade to help me appreciate and realize just how cool this moment really was. Obviously, we've talked about, I'm a Laker fan. The Lakers have had parades, but it just never hit the way that being a Dodgers fan has hit for me. And so this was the moment that I was like, oh, okay, I get the whole parade thing now. Like, I get how cool this is. I get the celebration. I get that these guys have their moment to sort of speak their piece. 5 or 6 days later, I see some people in the chat talking about how much this team and this city connected because of all of the injuries and because of the doubters and because of just the individual moments and performances that came up. And so we got a lot to get to. I shout out to the 1,400 people who are in here live with us. We appreciate it. We know lots of people watching after the fact on YouTube, listening via podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google. Anthony, before we get in, we're going to talk Ohtani injury. We're going to talk some funny / interesting quotes from Dave Roberts, Joe Kelly. We have a Roki Sasaki update from Kylie McDaniel of ESPN. And one of my favorite things that we're going to do, we're going to count down our top 10 plus moments from the entire postseason run. So we'll get to relive some of that. But I have to ask, Anthony, now that we're 6 days removed, any more purchases that we've thrown on the old credit card for Dodgers World Series memorabilia, gear, shirts, hats, anything?
I got the game worn hat, the World Series emblem hat.
Okay, so not champions, just like
not
the
the
World
champions
Series.
one.
Okay,
but ordered the champions one.
Don't you love it? It's literally the exact same hat you're currently wearing with just a different patch on the side.
Totally. So that one's on the way. And then at the stadium, bought my sister the City Connect Mookie jersey.
Okay.
It was one she had been wanting for a while, and it was all my brother and my sister went with me to the parade, and both my parents were there as well as some other friends. It was a big group, and she was like, I'm here. I'm just going to get it. I guess she had all season long. She'd been like, I don't know if I want to spend that much. And she was like, I'm just doing it. I'm doing
Full
it.
send, baby.
So I told her I would get that for her. But more to come. There's definitely going to be more to come.
Well, I have to give a small plug. I was looking at these. People have probably seen the ads. Big time bats. Have you seen these ads for these things? The laser engraved bats that they've got going around? Have you seen anything on those?
No.
Okay. Big time bats. They got a bunch of different versions, but they've got a couple that are like Louisville Slugger, and they've got one. The two that I'm looking at are black, and one is laser engraved with the signatures of all of the guys who are on the NLCS and World Series rosters. So I believe there's like 27, maybe 28 names on there. Okay. And then the second bat, if you buy the 2-bat set, has black matching Louisville Slugger full size bat, but laser engraved with all the scores from game 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the World Series logo next to it. So I'm looking at those. Those are pretty fresh. I've never been a bat guy, but I mean, obviously you look behind me and I'm like, I mean, we could find a place to hang a couple bats on there. Sure. So that's probably that's I've got the 2 hats. Let's see. I got the Freddie Freeman shirt. So we've got that as well.
Yeah.
And then I've got to plug our friends at Homage, HOMAGE. There's stuff that we're going to be doing with them in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned on that front. But they've got some sweet World Series gear coming out in the next couple of weeks, and it's awesome. And if you haven't owned any of their stuff, this that I'm wearing right now is Homage, and it is like the most comfortable clothing brand I've ever worn, period. If you want to just get some cool Dodgers gear, it's all on sale right now, $10 or $15 off, homage.com. Just search for the Dodgers. They've got a Jackie Robinson starter jacket. They've got some just a sweet LA, just crew neck sweatshirt. So, but stay tuned on Homage. We're going to be doing some giveaways with them as well. So I know that's coming. So that's going to check my sweatshirt box. Like I said, 2 hats. I got the World Series champions hat, like you pointed out. Yeah. And then I got a rope hat. Scotty and I are getting matching rope hats. So we're doing pretty good over here. We're doing pretty good. But I mean, look, let's be honest. It's what, November 5th? We got Christmas in 50 days. So I mean, we got time to come. I'm going to be buying Dodgers gear for people. If you want to buy them bats, big time bats, shout out to them. We've got options here.
And new gear will come out when the season starts. That is World Series related.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yes. I've got the Mookie gold letter jersey. Yeah. We might need to find ourselves another one of those, maybe a Walker Buehler. If we get a Walker Buehler jersey, that'd be a fresh one. I've joked about I may or may not be looking at some non-MLB.com places for a Freddie Freeman World Series jersey. So we'll see. It's just maybe, hard to say. All right, let's get into this, Anthony. Big Dodgers breaking news today, which was that Shohei Ohtani undergoes shoulder surgery for a labrum tear. We were originally told this was a subluxation, which means his shoulder popped out and popped back in. The Dodgers now announce, well, actually, dislocation, slight tear of the labrum. He has surgery that was deemed successful. And the Dodgers announced, quote, he is expected to be ready for spring training. This wasn't what the Dodgers told us, but I'm not sure this was a huge surprise either.
Yeah, I think after we saw some of the swings he was taking, I think we all knew it might have been a little more serious than just that. Just not sure how much. And then when he was asked the question about surgery during the World Series, and he said basically like, we haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah.
The right answer would have been like, no, absolutely not. No surgery needed. Right. But when he said that, it was like, okay, this is definitely more serious than we've been told. Good news is that it seems like he did it quickly. Everything seems to be fine. But then you also go, well, Cody Bellinger had the same surgery, and it took him basically an entire season to like even start resembling him looking right. Then you go, well, they're both left-handed. For Bellinger, it was the lead shoulder. For Shohei, it's the rear, it's the back shoulder, it's the trail shoulder, which does make a big difference. And so now it's just a bunch of hopium.
Yeah.
Like, we hope that's enough to make sure that he's okay. Not his pitching arm, so that's another big plus. Yeah. But and they expect him to be in the lineup, right? They expect him to be there when spring training starts with no limitations. This probably is something though that you just we're gonna have to wait and see, because they're gonna say all the right things. He's gonna say that he's feeling fine and it's not bothering him, but we're gonna have to look at the results for the first 2-3 weeks, the first month, and see like, okay, does he look like the Shohei we watched all summer long?
Yeah. And the big question is how this impacts his pitching rehab. I'm not worried about offensively his shoulder being ready for, whatever we're looking at 4 or 5 months from now. I joked with somebody, Shohei Ohtani and I now have one thing in common. We've both had shoulder surgery following a dislocation of our shoulders. That's the one thing that Shohei Ohtani and I now have in common. But like, I'm not worried about how his shoulder is going to recover. I'm just worried about like, how long does he have to take a break from throwing? Obviously it's not his throwing shoulder, but if there's now a 2-week, 6-week gap in when he's actually throwing a baseball with his other shoulder, that's, I think, the part that there is to be concerned about. So to your point, stay tuned for details on this, but that was big news that the Dodgers released today themselves, that he went under successful surgery for to repair a labrum tear that resulted from a left shoulder dislocation on October 26th.
Yeah. And last thought on that part, on the pitching side of it for me is, I don't think the Dodgers are going to be super heartbroken if like the start of his season gets delayed a little bit and they push him out in terms of, being on the mound in the regular season. I think for them, that might be completely fine, because I think they're going to limit his innings anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Stockton says, I don't like the olds when Jeff isn't here. Not sure. Maybe I'm not sure. Help me with the translation there, but we appreciate the super chat, Stockton Slaps, and I think that's a compliment. So thank you for that as well. Let's get to some quotes from Dave Roberts. One of my favorite things in the last couple of days, Anthony, is all of these guys just letting loose, just firing takes left and right. We're going to get to some Joe Kelly takes, or a particular Joe Kelly take that's fantastic. But Dave Roberts had this to say in talking to Mookie Betts on his podcast, quote, I will tell you this now publicly. I was so afraid to come back to Los Angeles for Game 6, knowing we still had Yamamoto in our back pocket. But the point being is that if we were to come back, the noise, the pressure becomes real, because then you're going to start potentially being a part of history in the wrong way, a team that gave up a 3-0 lead, because it's never been done in the World Series. And so for me, that was the fear of going back. So your point, yes, I managed with urgency. Even when we were down 5-0 in Game 5, I didn't know how we were going to finish this dang game. Dave Roberts saying the quiet part out loud. Of course they were going to be nervous if they had come back Game 6. Doesn't mean he thought they were going to lose, but he's a human being. They're all human beings. Of course they were going to be scared if they lost 2 in a row and had to come back to LA.
Yeah, we talked about it that night that they won it all, of like, they got down 5-0, and like I tweeted it out too about just this is turning into a worst case scenario where then all the entirety of the pressure moves to the Dodgers, whereas the Yankees go into game 6 like we're not even so supposed to be here, so
Yeah.
let's they're going to let it all hang out. And for the Dodgers, all of a sudden you start to get tight because like you are one step closer to blowing a 3-0 lead in the World Series. And I think that I applaud Dave for being brutally honest there. And he said it like laughing and,
Yeah.
he wasn't joking. He was being serious, but like, they were having a good time with it.
Kind of
But
like hey, who cares now, by the way, because we won in 5.
exactly.
But
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like, at that point, it ceases to be the Yankees have to beat you 4 times. It's the Yankees have to beat you Friday. And if they beat you Friday, there's one game for both teams to win it all. And
yeah.
and it's such a toss up at that point. And so and that was not to relive all of this, but that was the entire point of like the problem so many people had with them, like really just sort of giving away or I should say giving up on game 4 when the score was still tight twice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The other quote I thought was, again, Dave Roberts being honest, referring to the Padres, quote, "To me, that was the World Series. They were 1 through 26, the best team, and they were no longer afraid of us." We said that on our show consistently, Anthony. The Dodgers and Padres were the 2 best teams in baseball. The Dodgers go down 2-1, come back to win game 4 and game 5 to win that one. This leads into the quote that Joe Kelly had when he was asked about the New York Yankees. Joe Kelly had this to say: "All we knew is that we had to just play regular Dodger baseball. We didn't have to do anything crazy, and we were going to win the World Series. It's facts. Just look at the team, look at the talent. Re-rank the teams, and they, the New York Yankees, are ranked 8th, and they played against the number 1 seed. Everyone knew." So Dave Roberts saying Padres best team we faced, that was the World Series. Joe Kelly saying the Yankees were the 8th best team in baseball. All we had to do was not screw this up, and we were going to win the World Series. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's Joe Kelly, so it's not that surprising, but like to see that or to hear that is like, it's pretty shocking. One, because like players just don't really disparage other teams that way. But I mean, also like that's probably not correct. Like if you re-rank, I don't think the Yankees are 8th. Like they maybe not are 2nd, right? They're not 2nd, but I don't think they're 8th either. But to the point about the Padres, and this is kind of where this all leads to. I think that it really like you're seeing a different Dave Roberts now.
Yeah.
And he's let the hair down, and he's just kind of sitting back, and he's really, really enjoying this run. I think that has come after the championship, because he is not the kind of manager who says stuff like that. Like, regardless of how far out you are from that series or whatever, he's never been that kind of guy. And for him to say that was obviously some brutal honesty from him, but also like it's bulletin board material for a team like you're not really going to see maybe ever again for a while. Like, but I think it's also a little like, okay, Padres, like we're acknowledging you. You don't get to say now that you're so underappreciated. We're calling you the 2nd best team. We beat you. That was the World Series for us. Like there's some of that in it too. But like, when the season starts again, like they still are going to have to wear that little brother tag.
Well, and it to your point, like I think this is what you're saying. It kind of stings the Padres a little bit because the Dodgers aren't going to stoop, right? They're not going to crap all over them like we're crapping on the Yankees.
Compliment.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. It's like, oh, no, the Padres, we respect them. 2nd best team, that was the World Series. Like, and it's like, what are you going to be mad about, Padres fans? Like, now what? Like, I'm not giving you anything. I'm not putting gasoline anywhere on any fire. Like, you could wear that as a badge of honor. Like, we are the 2nd best team, which is probably what Padres fans are going to do. But I just love that we crap on the Yankees because who cares about them? And the Padres, it's like, 1 through 26, best team. That was the World Series. Oh, we won. I mean, we won the World Series and the 2nd World Series. But I just thought that both those quotes, like, fantastic.
Yeah, so good. And it's they were the only team to like push the Dodgers to like the brink of elimination. And so it was acknowledging that, and also the but we still ran right by you and won this whole entire thing, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it was a very it was a really classy dig at Padres, and like,
Love it.
it was good. This is now, with him having said that, it is, the gates are open. It is an official rivalry. It's not quite the Giants, but like the wave's coming, because the
Yeah.
Padres aren't going to not be good now for a while. Like they're still going to be at that level. And obviously the Dodgers aren't going anywhere. So it's going to be spicy in 2025.
Although I will say this, the Padres have dipped into their prospect pool a few times to go make trades for guys like Tanner Scott, who's going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
And I do think you have to acknowledge that with the ownership situation as it is, we don't exactly know what the financial outlay is going to be for that organization moving forward. And so, yes, they've been aggressive with prospects, but they don't have the depth of a system necessarily coming up through. They've got guys like Tatis, who obviously is still in the prime. Machado, kind of, on that Freddie Freeman train where he's still going to be very good, but probably drifting away from being elite. Michael King is a nice pitcher. Yu Darvish is getting older. So they've just got some guys that it will be interesting to see what that organization looks like. I think they will be good, but much like the Yankees, Anthony, I wonder if we just saw the best version of the San Diego Padres. So we'll see. I mean, it's a question we'll get answered, 3 or 4 months from now.
It's possible, but King could end up being a future ace.
Totally.
Jackson Merrill could be a 10-time All-Star.
Totally.
Right? Like we're still figuring that part of it out. And then, Fernando Tatis Jr., for as much as we want to talk about him and how much, he may get on our nerves, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. And so, there's the good and the bad for both clubs right now. The thing that scares me is if the Padres do end up on the market and like a Mark Cuban type goes out and purchases them and says, you know what, there's no limit to what we'll spend. We'll go into the tax and we're going to compete with the Dodgers, because that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take for any team in the West to compete with the Dodgers. And if they do that, it's going to be it's going to be a Red Sox Yankees circa, early 2000s type of shootout.
Yeah, we got a super chat from our guy, David. I love you guys. My word is my bond. Here's the $20 and you deserve it. I enjoy listening to you. Very entertaining and insightful. Please work on an off-season food podcast. We are World Series champions, baby. David, we appreciate the super chat. And yes, we'll get a little food episode going for you here pretty soon.
David.
That'll be a fun one. But by the way, Anthony, if I forget, remind me, I've got a food question scenario I was presented with yesterday that I want to get your thoughts if we have some time. So how's that for a teaser? Stockton slaps with the super chat. Dodgers win, Rams win. He's also happy about the direction things are headed politically tonight. And he also says Teo is coming back for sure. Kike works at Raising Cane's now. The Kike stuff at Cane's was hilarious. We had some guys there covering that, which was fun. And if you missed it, we're not going to talk a ton about it tonight. But Daniel and I chatted this morning about the decision to give Teoscar a qualifying offer, what we think happens next. I shared why I was actually not surprised Walker Buehler didn't get a qualifying offer, which I think was the minority opinion on that front. And then also some Clayton Kershaw talk as he declined his option, and why that's actually both a good thing for the Dodgers and has nothing to do with whether or not he's going to be on the team next season. So check that out right here on the Dodger Blue YouTube page. Lots of good content that'll be coming throughout the offseason. So, okay, let's get to, Anthony, a segment that I had been planning. You and I went back and forth on, and that's the top 10 postseason moments for the Dodgers. I like to think of this as kind of, I would say more the 10 most memorable moments, more so maybe than the 10 single most important moments. I know MLB.com had like the moments that changed the win probability of a game the most. Obviously, there's a high correlation between those things, but I put together a list of about 10, 11, 12. You added a couple to it. We tweaked a couple rankings. So I'll say this. This is mostly my list, and I only say that because Anthony can disagree with something here. He contributed, confirmed, added, tweaked, but this is a list that I'm going to let Anthony react to as we go. And when I say the top 10 postseason moments, the reality is we've got some honorable mentions to get to here as well. So we'll start there. We're going to go backwards. I've got 4 honorable mentions. I had 14 on my list. We had to trim it to 10. So here are the 4 that I has as honorable mentions, Anthony, 11 through 14. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Game 2 of the World Series, 6 1/3, 1 hit, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. You described it as kind of like his coming out party on the biggest stage against the Yankees, a one-hitter through 6 1/3. We had Teoscar Hernandez and Freddie Freeman back-to-back home runs in Game 2. This was in the bottom of the 3rd inning. It was a tied 1-1 game in Game 2. They go up 4-1. Teoscar Hernandez's throw in the bottom of the 4th of Game 3 to get Giancarlo Stanton out at home. I think some people are going to be surprised that fell outside of the top 10, but wait till I give you my top 10. You can tell me if it should be in there. And then number 11, or excuse me, the next one on this list was just Walker Buehler, kind of big picture, 13 consecutive scoreless innings. He gave up 6 runs in the 2nd inning of Game 3 of the NLDS. I would argue those were not fairly earned runs to him.
Agreed.
He gets 3 more scoreless in that one, 4 shutout in Game 3 of the NLCS, 5 shutout in Game 3 of the World Series, and of course, the 9th inning in Game 5 as well. So those are the 4 that I have on the outside looking in, Anthony. I'll just ask you this. Is there one of those that bothers you the most that it couldn't find its way into the top 10?
I know the list, so I pretty much agree with the list. So I wouldn't say it bothers me, but one that I thought could have easily been in there and probably not even at the bottom was the Yamamoto performance. And like you mentioned, it was because in my thought was, he had the great Yankee game at Yankee Stadium in the regular season, but like it's Sunday night baseball in the summer. Like,
yeah,
baseball at that time is still mostly it's a local sport. And so great, right? But this is the World Series with like record high viewership, and it's Dodgers Yankees, and he goes out and he shoves. And I think that, the majority of the people who watched that game, the overwhelming majority probably did not watch the game that he pitched against them in the regular season. And so for them, this was the first time they saw Yamamoto and went, oh, this is that guy they paid all that money to from Japan. That's not Ohtani. He's pretty good. I thought for him, this really was on a national stage, his unveiling. And so, if we think that he's going to be our future ace, I think that game was the start of that rise.
I love it. Don't disagree with anything you said. Again, these 4 being on the outside has way more to do with the 10 that are about to be revealed here by me. And I'll just go straight to number 10 because I think this is the one that I felt like needed to be squeezed into the top 10. I think this is probably, you would have taken this one out and replaced Yamamoto Game 2. But it was in Game 1, and it was the play where Shohei Ohtani doubles and then advances to third on the error. The reason this had to be in the top 10 for me, it's a 1-out double. There's 5 outs left in the game. The Dodgers are losing by 1. It's a heads-up play. It's a risky play. It's a bang-bang decision Ohtani has to make. And if he doesn't make it to third, then Mookie Betts cannot score him on a sacrifice fly, which he does, which does not force extra innings, which does not allow us to have the Freddie Freeman home run. So I just felt like from a memorable moment and how important that was in Game 1, setting the stage for the World Series. And again, you're not saying this wasn't an important moment, but to me, this is the moment that as I looked at some of the lists out there, this one had to be in my top 10.
Yeah, that's fair. And you're right. Like, this is probably the one I would have taken out and replaced Yamamoto with, but I think that it's got to be somewhere in this conversation, right?
Yeah.
The reason I would not have put it in the top 10, I think for me personally, was because there are a lot of moments where you could go like 5 degrees of separation. Like if this doesn't happen and then this doesn't happen, then this doesn't happen. And then you don't get the bigger moment later.
Yeah.
But no, this was key. And I think it being Game 1, and this series could have gone completely differently if they had lost Game 1.
They were 5, they were 5 outs away from losing Game 1. They were losing 2-1 in the World Series in Game 1, 5 outs away.
And I think not only did it lead to the home run, which obviously was an epic moment that you're going to see replayed for the rest of our lifetime watching baseball, but it also, I don't know where they go if they lose that game. I don't know how the team responds, and I think that play leading to what happened afterward is what propelled them to just run over the Yankees.
Totally. Number 9 on my list. Again, this is not all World Series related. Tommy Edman's NLCS Game 6 performance. This was a game after the Game 5 of the NLCS. Dodgers accused of punting this game, etc. The vibes are not good. They have to come back to play the Mets in game number 6. Edman gives them a 2-run double in the bottom of the first to take they gave up. So they punt game 5. They give up a run in the top of the first in game 6. Tommy Edman 2-run double gives them the lead, and then a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning to give them a 4-1 lead. This was pretty much the game that sealed his NLCS MVP.
Yep.
And so I felt like as I was making this list, Tommy Edman had to be somewhere on here. It felt like game 6 was the moment that, and again, there's some moments, I believe it was game 1 where he makes the diving play to keep the ball in the infield that doesn't allow a run to score. I mean, there's a lot of those, but I chose NLCS game 6. I felt like as the Tommy Edman moment, if you will, for this postseason.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that double for me, more than the home run, was the bigger hit.
Huge.
Because like you mentioned the things that had preceded that moment, and it was like they needed that hit at that moment to really like bounce back up off the mat, and he pushed them there, and they were rolling after that. So yeah, that double for me was a huge part of the postseason.
Number 8 for me, Blake Treinen, World Series game number 5. We're obviously stretching the definition of a quote unquote moment, but what he did in game 5, probably you could make a case deserves to be way higher on this list than number 8. He came into a game with 2 outs in the 6th inning. The Yankees had just taken a 6-5 lead. He comes into a game with 2 runners on. He gets Volpe to ground out, comes back in the 7th, 1-2-3, comes back in the 8th. So now he is pitching in his 3rd inning, trying to get a 5th, 6th, and 7th out, ground out, double to Judge. He gets the walk and then the visit from Dave Roberts, which will be one of the lasting images in my mind. 2 hands on the chest. You can do this. Stanton fly out, Rizzo strikeout, an absolutely unbelievably gutty performance from Blake Treinen. And the entirety of that 7 outs, to me, belongs in this list. And again, I know what the 7 I put above it, but I'm kind of mad this is 8th and not way higher on this list.
Yeah, look, man, he had some shaky moments in October, but what a pair on him to do what he did in that game, and to tell Dave, managers to go out there and they're not like, if they're going to ask you a question, and if you're like, yeah, I'm feeling fine, like that's not what they want to hear. They're going to take you out. And whatever he said, Dave, it was what Dave wanted to hear, and Dave had no problem leaving him in. That was epic. Yeah.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure nobody was warming up, and I'm pretty sure Blake Treinen was staying in the game literally no matter what words came out of his mouth. But I'm glad that he said the thing that Dave Roberts was hoping he would say.
I mean, they had no one else.
It's true. It's true. Buehler was not going to come into that game in the 8th inning. So that's moment number 8. I joked with Anthony. There are so many game 5 moments. That's going to be the theme here. When they won in 2020, the iconic moment to me was actually NLCS game 7 home run from Cody Bellinger. It's funny to me that there's basically no NLCS moments anywhere to be found in this list other than, I believe, the Tommy Edman moment that we just talked about. I guess there's a couple more that kind of touch on it. There's maybe 1 or 2 NLDS moments as well, but just funny. So number 7, the Dodgers take the lead in World Series game 5. This was the pair of sacrifice flies in the 8th inning from Gavin Lux on a full count, and then Mookie Betts. I keep pointing this out, and yes, it's because I like Gavin Lux. Like, he had to hit his ball not only deep enough to score the runner from 3rd, but to advance the runner from 2nd to 3rd so that he could score on the Mookie Betts sacrifice fly. So kudos to Gavin Lux with 2 strikes for doing that. I believe Mookie might have got his on the first pitch, but the Dodgers took the lead in the 8th inning of this game. Treinen comes back out, gets the shutdown inning, and then hands the ball to Walker Buehler. But Lux and Mookie Betts, moment number 7 for me.
Yeah, and great. This one was one of my contributions to the list. It was just, those were huge moments, and I think Mookie getting the go-ahead one there was huge. I thought that if you were going to give an offensive MVP for like the entirety of the postseason, Mookie was it. He didn't win the NLCS one, he didn't win the World Series one, but he was really the guy who anchored the offense throughout the month. And I think it's got to be so super sweet for him, considering where he was coming into this postseason. And
he deserved,
and he was the guy who gave
the game-winning RBI. He deserved the game-winning World Series RBI because we talked about he led the entire team in on-base percentage and slugging percentage for the postseason. He had 4 home runs. Like, this guy maybe didn't have individual, like, massive home run moments, and yet so perfectly fitting. I'm glad you said it, that he gets the go-ahead RBI in the World Series Game 5 clincher. Kudos to Mookie Betts because he was fantastic. And yeah, I mean, as people have said, the nonsense about Mookie Betts not being able to hit in the postseason, we can put that to bed once and for all. Let's get to number 6. And this moment being in the top 10 is not going to surprise anybody. It's the Yankees falling apart in the 5th inning of World Series game number 5. It started with a Kike Hernandez single. Then Tommy Edman lines a ball to Aaron Judge that he drops. Will Smith grounds out to Volpe. However, Volpe tries to make a play at third, and from 8 feet away, throws him a bounce pass to Jazz Chisholm, who can't make the dig. And what will be easily forgotten is that the Dodgers then struck out. Gavin Lux and Shohei Ohtani struck out. They nearly got nothing out of this inning, if not for Mookie Betts grounding out to Rizzo and Garrett Cole not covering the base. The third, that one technically doesn't qualify as an error, but it was the third error of the inning. And only after that did the Dodgers score. Freddie Freeman, 2-run single, Teoscar Hernandez, 2-run double, and all of a sudden it's tied. But as far as an inning goes, Anthony, that's about as memorable, iconic. Aaron Judge dropping the fly ball and Garrett Cole pointing to first base are 2 images that will be with me for the rest of my life.
It's not quite this level, but in Yankee lore, it's going to be up there. But it's Bill Buckner with the ball between his legs.
Yeah. Which one is it going to be? It's got to be Judge, right? Because it's Judge dropping the ball because he's the face.
I think it's the combination of it's the Judge and the Cole.
See, the Cole one isn't going to play as well on highlight videos because there's you kind of have to understand what's going on to really appreciate that moment where Judge just dropping a fly ball and Aaron Judge, the MVP. I'm with you. The Judge fly ball doesn't matter if Cole covers first base. Right. But either way.
I think the Cole one lives in infamy a little more because it would have been the third out for at least for the Yankees fans. Yeah. Because it would have been the third out. And when the second he realized it was him who screwed up, he pointed at the bag and looked at Rizzo as if it was his fault. Yeah, and that point,
so good.
That's going to be on Boston Red Sox sweatshirts, being worn when they play next season.
Sign me up for one of those. Top 5. Here we go. Top 5 moments. Again, moments maybe loosely stretched on this next one in the 2024 March to the World Series for the Dodgers. Number 5 is this. The Dodger pitchers recording 23 consecutive scoreless innings. I went back to look this up. It started in the 3rd inning of NLDS Game 3 and ended in NLCS Game 2. It was a full 7 days, Tuesday through Monday, that the Dodgers basically didn't allow a run. Again, the 3rd inning of NLDS Game 3 all the way up until NLCS Game 2. Keep in mind, in Game 3, the Dodgers lost. So Game 4, Game 5, both must-win games. The Dodgers throw shutouts, and then they come back in Game 1 of the NLCS and throw yet another shutout. Yeah. Insane performance from a pitching staff that, let's be honest, was disrespected and not really, I should say, disrespected and counted out by most people heading into this postseason.
Yeah, for sure. It was that pitching, the starting pitching at least, was definitely seen as the weakest link of the club going into the playoffs. Absolutely.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So that's number 5. Let's get to number 4. This is a moment that I don't want us to forget, and it's Alex Vesia escaping a jam in the World Series, game number 2. The Dodgers have a 4-1 lead going into the 9th with Blake Trinan, game 5 hero, in this game. Single, strikeout, single. It's now 4-2. Single, hit by pitch, strikeout. And with 2 outs, Alex Vesia comes into a game with the bases loaded. The Dodgers are only up by 2 runs, but it feels like this thing is slipping away. And Alex Vesia comes in. Trevino lines out slightly deep to left center field, but Alex Vesia gets them out of that jam, shuts the door in game number 2, and allows the Dodgers to get to just shut the door. But this was a huge moment. I mean, again, you want to talk about a ball going slightly different places. We're talking about an entire different series. The fact that Vesia can come in that spot as a non-traditional closer and get the fly out, incredible moment, shuts the door in game number 2.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened for him too that way, because I think he's been seen throughout his entire Dodger tenure as not that kind of guy. Maybe and we I think the people who pay a lot of attention are no, he's a leverage arm. He's a back of the bullpen type of arm on a lot of other teams. And we just deployed him a little bit differently, but I'm glad that he had that situation. He got out of that jam, and he deserves to be on this list because I think that, he's one of the more overlooked high leverage relievers that this team had. And so this was his way of saying, like, don't forget about me either.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Top three, not going to be a ton of surprises for folks here. Shohei Ohtani's home run in game one of the NLDS. Dodgers go down 3-0. Ohtani hits a home run to tie it. This is one that I've seen people rank very highly on these lists. It's third for me, honestly, because game one of the NLDS, it feels lower to me. Although that
It
said,
was the World Series.
Okay. No, yes, fair. Yeah, you got me there. Because it's the Padres, because they were down 3-0, because of how tight that was, and because it was Ohtani, I understand all of those pieces. That's why I've got it number 3. But the game tying home run, the reaction that you got from him, all of those things, I think make this a moment that, again, if we're talking memorable moments, it's not more important than Vesia's out necessarily, but it's way more memorable, I think, in most people's mind.
Yeah, this would have been number 2 for me. I thought that maybe they don't get out of the NLDS again if he doesn't hit that home run. And it was everything, right? Like you mentioned too. It was his first big hit in his first postseason game. Tied it up and like really brought them back from like the depths. Like I think, look, let's be honest. Dodger fans were going, here we go again.
It was despair. It was the depths of despair. You want to know what it was? It was the feeling you had going into the bottom of the first inning in game one of the NLDS.
Yeah.
So huge moment for Shohei Ohtani. Of course, unfortunately, not a ton of those huge moments, but that was a big one. And it comes in at number 3 on our list of top 10 moments in the Dodgers World Series run. Number 2 and number 1 are going to surprise nobody. Number 2, Walker Buehler closing out World Series Game 5. We talked in the live show immediately after. This was the entirety of Walker Buehler coming into the game. Walker Buehler warming up. The stories afterward, Walker Buehler coming into a game and then shutting it down.
Yeah.
An all-time Dodgers moment for Walker Buehler. And this would be number 1 in just about every World Series victory ever, except for 1988 and 2024, because number 1 on this list is Freddie Freeman's home run for the ages. Freddie, meet Gibby. Gibby, meet Freddie. The walk-off grand slam, game 1, World Series, biggest World Series ever. Yankees versus Dodgers, LA versus New York, all of it. A walk-off grand slam from Freddie Freeman that, because the Dodgers have won, is now a Mount Rushmore moment in Major League history as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, this is one of those that like a Reggie Jackson golfing the ball out, the walk-offs in the Gibson home run, those kinds of World Series moments, the Don Larson game, like all of that kind of stuff, like all of those historic moments that are talked about outside of that team's fan base.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman's grand slam in game 1 is right there, smack dab in the middle of it. And that pose, I've said it on the show before, but that pose of him holding up the bat like a sword is going to live in Dodger history forever. And it's going to be an image that you see played on non-Dodger highlight reels for decades now.
Yeah. This is, as we've said on this show, going to be one of the most famous, memorable, powerful Dodgers World Series titles of their 8 because of the team, because of the 2020 sort of carryover and not really getting to celebrate that team, because of the disappointments in 2017 and 2018, in 2021, 2022, 2023, like all of that pooled together, and to watch a team that, let's be honest, a lot of people had started to give up on or had completely given up on, for them to beat the Padres after being down 2-1 and come back in games 4 and game 5, to go into the Mets, take a big lead, have the game 5 drama of did they punt? Did the Dodgers screw this up? Did Dave Roberts come back and win in game 6? And then to go into what is one of the biggest, if not the biggest World Series of the last 40 years. Again, Dodgers, Yankees, LA, New York, Judge versus Ohtani, right? Soto, Betts, all of the star power, Garrett Cole versus Yoshinobu Yamamoto, all of the star power. And then for the Dodgers to clear this one out. Incredible stuff from the Dodgers. So folks that are watching, I would love to hear from you down below. What did we miss? What moments would you see added? Are there honorable mentions? I've heard some people say Ice Cube versus Fat Joe needs to be somewhere on this list. And
someone also said, where does Dave Roberts twerking on Ice Cube rank?
Yeah, low is the answer. Not anywhere near the top 14 would be my answer. So let us know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to get feedback on this list.
If we went like all of October, like I think like Teoscar and Kershaw's speeches
Yeah.
at the parade are up there.
That's a great point. Okay, so let me ask you this. It's not number one. It's not number two. Parade, stadium celebration. If that was a moment,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
are we dropping that ahead of Ohtani's Game 1 NLDS home run, or are we dropping it right behind it? Because I feel like it's got to be somewhere in that 3 to 4 range.
Yeah, I would say it's right behind it because I think the 3 moments that you talked about there that are in the top 3, that parade doesn't happen if those things don't happen. Like specifically, right? Like, we talked about Mookie's October or Ohtani advancing or like the scoreless streak from the pitching staff. Like all of those things are great, but like the 3 things ahead of it directly led to like getting that parade. You know what I mean? Like those were game winning or series defining kind of moments. And so I think that the parade falls right under those 3 things that led us to those moments in Dodger Stadium and in downtown LA.
The Dodgers are 2024 World Series champions. Never forget, folks. Never forget. All right, here's what we're going to do. Anthony's got to hop off here, so I'm going to let him go. And then we've got a couple more things we're going to discuss, take some questions. So, Anthony, enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you. Thank everybody for
Anthony and I will be here on Tuesday nights throughout the offseason. It'll be me and Anthony right here, probably the 7:10 p.m. time slot. I like the old Dodger start time, 7:10 p.m. So expect that Tuesday nights throughout the offseason. We'll talk to you soon, Anthony. We appreciate you. All right, let's get to one more update here, and then we'll take some questions. We did have a super chat, an apology, zip code 0 that we're just getting. It said, Sasaki, Buehler, Snell, Fried, Flaherty. Which 2 are Dodgers in 2025? I think Buehler is. I will say that. And as it relates to Roki Sasaki, let's get to this. Some notes that we got today from Kylie McDaniel on ESPN. I found interesting. He was ranking his top free agents. I believe he had Roki Sasaki as the number 3 free agent. I could be wrong, but here's what he said. Quote, with indications pointing to Sasaki joining this year's class, we'll include him here. He had him number 2 free agent, by the way. So with indications pointing to Sasaki being a part of the class, that's a key part because not everybody takes for granted that Sasaki is definitely going to be posted. Kylie McDaniel, pretty plugged in guy over at ESPN, says he will be posted, or indications pointing to him being posted. That's important, first of all. Second of all, some other interesting notes here. If he comes over before age 25, as you know, then he's limited to being paid only out of an international pool. He can't come as like a true free agent. This is what Ohtani did. It is not what Yoshinobu Yamamoto did. If he comes before December 15th, he would be limited to roughly $2.5 million because December 15th is the end of the international free agent signing period. So he would count against the 2024 number instead of the 2025. So he would be limited to about 2.5 million. Why? Well, because no teams have more than 2.5 million. You might be wondering, which team has $2.5 million? McDaniel says, quote, coincidentally, the team with roughly 2.5 million remaining in its pool, the most in baseball, is the Dodgers. They are heavily favored to land Sasaki, just as they landed Ohtani and Yamamoto last offseason. Okay, so if he waits until after December 15th, pools reset, teams can spend up closer to $7 million. The Dodgers would not have the most money in that scenario. But if he waits till after December 15th, he could get closer to $7 million, depending on which team he wanted to go to. The last note on McDaniel, which is a little bit of a damper for the Dodgers fans, he said some scouts think Sasaki would prefer a smaller market. Obviously, LA doesn't check that box. And that Sasaki's velocity was down this year, leading some to believe that he is nursing an injury. So those are the updates on Roki Sasaki. Back to the question that we were asked. Sasaki, Buehler, Snell, Fried, Flaherty, which 2 are Dodgers in 2025? I think Walker Buehler is a Dodger in 2025. I mentioned that. If you made me pick one, Sasaki, Snell, Fried, and Flaherty, it's fascinating. Blake Snell is a guy the Dodgers have long been fascinated by. They tried to sign him last offseason. There were reports they were interested in trading for him. This past year, neither of those things worked out. Max Fried, not sure. I see him. He's probably last on this list. Jack Flaherty, LA native, wants to be here, won a World Series, had a really good season on the whole, struggled down the stretch. So the Dodgers would know kind of where he was at health-wise. Was the back a bigger deal? How much will he be able to come back from that? I would have Buehler 1. I would have Roki Sasaki 2. There's just so much smoke with this guy. it makes so much sense. If you are going to come over early, you're not interested in money, you would want to come to the Dodgers, get developed, have the marketing income that you can get from that kind of a thing. So I would go Buehler 1, Sasaki 2. I would probably go, I'll say Flaherty 3, Snell 4, Fried 5. That would be how I would rank the 5 guys that we were asked about. So zip code 0, thank you for the question. But there is your Roki Sasaki update. Okay, we got a little bit of time. Let's get some questions here. I mentioned a food thing for Anthony. I'll save that for another one. But stay tuned. Alex says the Dodgers need a left-handed starter. Don't worry, baby. Clayton Kershaw's coming back. He opted out, yes, but that's to just give them a 40-man roster spot. Kershaw, 32 starts next year, 200 innings. We're golden, Ray. Don't worry about the lefty starting pitcher. Clayton Kershaw holding it down. And no, I don't actually think he's going to make 32 starts next year. Kenny says, does Flaherty give a hometown discount to stay on the team? I would imagine Jack Flaherty would be very, very motivated. I think Teoscar and Flaherty are both highly motivated to stay with the Dodgers. How much of a discount they might give, I'm not entirely sure, but I think both of those guys, if everything else was equal, would want to be with the Dodgers. I think with Flaherty, the question is, now that Buehler feels like a guy they kind of have to bring back, or that they're going to be more interested in bringing back, I know all these guys were injured. I know you can never have enough starting pitching, but is Flaherty the type of guy? Maybe. In some senses, he's perfect because he's a guy you can, with as much dependability as possible, pencil in for like 25 to 30 starts, which is fairly rare in baseball nowadays. He also was very good. The moment's not too big for him. We've seen him succeed as well as fail on the World Series stage. So I don't know if he would give a full-fledged discount, but I think him and Teoscar are motivated to stay if that's helpful. Ella Shiva says, will the Dodgers re-sign Kike? I imagine they have to. The Dodgers have a really interesting roster crunch. Every year we talk about the roster crunch. Basically everybody from the 26-man roster in the World Series, I would kind of expect to be back, which means where does a guy like Dalton Rushing fit into that conversation? But the way that Kike performed in the postseason, the versatility he gives them, the Dodgers want to win in the World Series. Kike, for what he gives you in the postseason versus what he actually costs, that ratio is as high as anybody. So for the vibes and for postseason contributions, Kike's coming back. Although, apologies to Matt. I don't know if he was quite good enough for us to stick with Keektober. I think we need to he needs to come back next year, perform a little bit better, and then we can go Keektober. So thank you for the question, El Shiva there. Corbin says, does Edman give us enough to not go after a shortstop like Willy Adames? Here's the thing about Edman. He could play center field. So I think what Edman does is it gives you flexibility to go after whoever you want to. If Willy Adames is a guy you really, really like, he fits, the price is right, etc., then go after Willy Adames, put Tommy Edman in center field, and you've solved two problems. If you can't go out and get Willy Adames, if none of the other shortstops, Ha-Sung Kim or anybody else, are that appealing to you, then go get a guy who can survive in center field, who's probably going to cost you a lot less than Willy Adames, and you've solved both of those problems. So I don't think Tommy Edman changes the plan at shortstop necessarily. I just think he gives you a backup. You're not desperate. If not for Tommy Edman, I don't know what they would be doing at shortstop. And so thankfully now they don't have to Willy Adames can't come to them and say, add 20% to whatever the number is because you have no other choice. They do have a choice now. It's Tommy Edman. So that's good news for them. NS says there's not a single Dodger that doesn't want to come back, not named Hudson or Kiermaier. Probably fair. And both those guys probably would come back if they could, but they're both retiring. Craig says, coach-wise, is everyone coming back? I haven't paid super close attention. Clayton McCullough was in the running for the Mariners or for the Marlins job. Excuse me. I'm not sure if what ended up happening there. So did somebody update me on that one? Did he get the Marlins job? I don't think they've announced anything, right? I think he was a leading candidate. And that's the last that happened. So somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine he might be gone if the Marlins hire him. If not, I'm assuming everybody else is coming back. Am I old? How many spots are needed for the Rule 5 draft? That is a great question. Check out my buddy FutureDodgers.com, Justin Lorber. He does a great job. Go to his prospect portal. Let's see. I'll try and do this on the fly. These are guys that need to be protected in the Rule 5 draft this year that are not currently on the 40-man roster. So let's see. Oh, I always get give me a second. Okay. I think they've kind of already covered all their Rule 5 guys. Austin Gauthier would be a 2024 Rule 5 draft guy. Damon Keith. So it feels like they don't have anybody, because I think a lot of the guys who were going to be Rule 5 draft guys are have already been added to the 40-man roster. So there you go. And Matt, in case you were wondering, is in the chat. Keektober tweeting all along. Elishiva, will the Dodgers re-sign Trinan and make it a 2-year deal? I hope they re-sign him. When that guy's right, you could make an argument, maybe the best reliever in baseball. What he did in Game 5, the Dodgers have always been, and it almost killed them, but it ended up being what saved them, which is ironic. They just want guys that are going to help them win World Series. Blake Trinan helps you win a World Series. He's not going to make 60 appearances in the regular season. He doesn't have to. Just get that guy to postseason and let him get outs, and there we go. JP says, who will be opening day starter since it's in Japan, Ohtani or Yamamoto? I have to imagine it's Yamamoto. I wouldn't say I'd be shocked, but I would be surprised if Ohtani is able to pitch and is starting a game. So I think Yamamoto's the starter, Ohtani's the DH, and they go from there. C. Stellaria. Question, how about Corbin Burns? He's really good. I'd love it. We've got a show that we're thinking through where everybody's going to put together their free agent plans. Corbin Burns, the number one starting pitcher on the market. You've also got a guy who's not a pitcher named Juan Soto that is very polarizing, I found, among Dodger fans. But look, the Dodgers are going to be in on guys. Is Corbin Burns the type of player they're going to go after? The age profile, the cost, all of that. It doesn't feel like a perfect fit. It doesn't feel like the type of guy they go after, and yet it's the Dodgers. So who knows? They have plenty of money. They can do whatever they want. Elishiva says, Miguel Rojas taking the Marlins job. No, not he re-signed him and Austin Barnes. Larry, how many years would you extend Doc? As many years as he wants to be the Dodgers manager. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's won 2 World Series. And if we did a ranking, another show idea that we may bring up sometime, maybe Sunday, we'll see, is all of Dave Roberts' best decisions that he made. It's a long list. I got 14 on this one. Dave will 10 will be tough to get to as far as trimming it down to 10, because Dave was fantastic. Even Game 5 we were talking about, like the decision to go to Kopech and to start burning through his relievers when they are still down 5-0 is the reason that they were able to come back. So kudos to Dave, and all of the quote unquote punting stuff, which we talked about on this show. Those guys were all available in Game 5 because they didn't have to pitch in Game 4. So the reason they're able to do what they do in Game 5 is because of how Dave handled stuff in Day 4. So lifetime contract, as far as I'm concerned. Alex, will you be at the parade? Jeff, will you be at the parade next year if the Dodgers win the World Series? We'll see. We'll see. I was actually, funny story, headed out of town on the day of the parade. Had this series gone 6-7, I would not have been at home watching it. So shout out to the Dodgers for winning that in 5 games, because your boy got to watch them win it, got to watch the parade, and then headed out of town. So note to me, make sure that the World Series isn't going all the way until November 3rd next time you book a travel. And but after seeing the parade, that would be sweet. I don't know if I'd be able to pull it off, but it would definitely be a sweet thing. Corbin says, will the Dodgers check in on Ha-Seong Kim? He was a guy I thought they might like last year. I imagine they'll kick the tires, and if the price is right, he's a guy at shortstop that I think could make some sense for them. Noisy Ninja, who gets traded during the offseason? If you watch the show, you know I am not on team trade Gavin Lux. I think he's a valuable player. I think he plays a position they don't have anybody else that can play as well as he plays it at second base. Yes, he's not going to be perennial all-star. Yes, he's not a shortstop, but if you forget what you thought about Gavin Lux 2 years ago and just look at who he is today, I think he's a valuable player. I think you can make the case that offensively he's going to continue to get better the further he gets away from the knee injury. So I don't think Gavin Lux is going to get traded. And if Gavin Lux doesn't get traded, I think there's some guys in the bullpen, like lesser, like lower leverage arms that they're probably going to trade away to free up some space, much like they did with Victor Gonzalez and Caleb Ferguson, Yency Almonte, those types of arms. I could see them making some moves there. But I mean, other than that, I mean, if they wanted to go after Bo Bichette, they might have to dig into some of the arms. But I don't think they're going to make any major trades off of the roster. That's just my initial instinct. C. Celeria, are they going to re-sign Freeman once he's a free agent? I think he's going to play out this contract, and that'll be about it for Freddie Freeman. We got some super chats. Pizza in the box. Congrats to former Dodgers Andre Jackson and Yoshitomo Satsugo for winning the NPB championship this week. Hashtag can't beat LA. I believe Andre Jackson pitched really well in the championship round. So Andre Jackson, cool dude. I was bummed it didn't really ever totally work out for him with the Dodgers, but good stuff. And pizza in the box. Thank you for that super chat as well. Let's see. Lori, do you think Pages becomes starting center fielder, or does Outman get another chance? Outman honestly might be a guy that they think about trading. Going back to the last question, I don't think Pages has it defensively to play center field. He makes the most sense in either right field or left field, which obviously is problematic because I think Mookie Betts is going to be the right fielder, which I know some people don't agree with. And I think Teoscar Hernandez or Juan Soto is probably going to be the left fielder. So I don't know what they're going to do with Andy Pages. He could be another guy that could be a sneaky trade candidate if they end up going a different direction there. But I find it hard to believe that if Teoscar or Juan Soto is one of the corners, that you wouldn't want a much better defender in center field. James Outman is that. Can he figure out how to be more consistent offensively? I understand the people that are skeptical, but I just don't think Pages defensively is going to be it. At least Outman, he's not Kevin Kiermaier defensively, although he is very good, but he's at least shown us in the last 18 months that he could be an average to above average bat. So if he can figure that out, I'm optimistic. As you know, I hold on to hope for guys longer. Outman, that ticket hasn't cashed yet, but Gavin Stone, Gavin Lux, some guys that those tickets have cashed on. So we'll see. I see Diego Cartaya. He could be a guy that's probably traded for sure. Just to open up the 40-man roster spot. Ella Shiva, Brent Honeywell is still a Dodger, correct? He is. I'm not sure for how long. He has no more options. So I don't know. It was an unbelievable story. Glad he won the World Series. But when the Dodgers have to make some tough decisions, there's a couple guys that would be removed ahead of him, but that list might not be super, super long as much as you hope it would be. Let's see. MK, and then we'll close this one out. Does this offseason sound realistic? Re-sign Teoscar, Buehler, Kike, and Treinen, and then sign Roki Sasaki. Who else would you add to that? I think it does sound realistic. I don't think that's crazy. I think the Dodgers trying to bring guys back. I think there's probably another starting pitcher that gets mixed in. Obviously, I'm assuming Clayton Kershaw would be a part of this group. He technically needs to be added now that he's declined. But yeah, I think there's probably another starting pitcher of some sort. I don't know if it's a Corbin Burns type or if it's more of a Jack Flaherty type. We went over it this morning. I mean, I think Buehler's probably going to command somewhere in the $15-ish million a year range. Flaherty, last year he got 14 on a 1-year deal. He was much better this year. So that number is probably closer to 20, but I don't think either of those guys is getting like a 5-year deal. So if you could bring back Flaherty for, $45 million for 2 years, and Walker Buehler gets like $35 million over 2 years or something like that, I could see both of those guys being stopgaps until you feel more confident in the Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, River Ryan, Robleski type, Gavin Stone, Bobby Miller types that maybe you don't feel like are for sure ready to go and get you outs in bulk right now. So, all right, folks, that'll do it for us. Thank you so much. Almost 3,000 people in here on a Tuesday night. Thank you for joining us. Again, thank you to Anthony for hopping in. And this is the schedule. We're going to be here every Tuesday night, Anthony and I, 7:10 p.m. And you'll hear more about the offseason schedule in the coming days. There will be videos coming out in the morning a lot of the time as well. But the GM meetings happening. We've got some interviews lined up for the end of this week, the beginning of next week, maybe even a Dodgers player that's going to be hopping on the show as soon as next week. We're hoping. So lots of good content. If you are new here, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Right here, Dodger Blue 1958 on social media. If you're a podcast person, again, Apple, Spotify, Google, find the DodgerHeads podcast, rate, review, follow, subscribe, whatever it takes. We would greatly appreciate it. Even if you're not a podcast person, go ahead, do us a favor. Dodger Blue 1958 on social media. Again, all content that you need as it relates to the, did I mention, 2024 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers right here at DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. We have giveaways coming in the next few weeks, some World Series gear, swag, all sorts of stuff. So If you're new, thanks for joining us. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers. And of course, the new edition, 2024 into 2025. Still champs!